Dante Vasconcellos had everything: power, wealth, a life of luxury. But as his birthday approached, he realized he had no one to celebrate with. In a moment of desperation, he made an unusual proposition to his housekeeper, Ayana. What started as a paid dinner soon turned into something neither expected. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. Dante Vasconcellos stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, looking down at the city below. At 42, he had everything money could buy: the luxury car collection, the mansion overlooking the ocean, and a business empire that kept growing. But as he watched people walking together on the streets below, laughing and talking, he felt the familiar emptiness creep in. His assistant knocked on the door, interrupting his thoughts. "Mr. Vasconcellos, the board members are waiting in the conference room." Dante nodded, his face returning to its usual mask of cool indifference. "Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes." When the assistant left, Dante checked his phone. No personal messages, just business emails and calendar notifications. His birthday was coming up next week. 43 years old and not a single person who truly cared whether he celebrated or not. Hours later, Dante returned to his mansion. As he pulled into the circular driveway, he noticed a small, practical sedan parked near the staff entrance. His housekeeper was still here, even though it was past 7. The mansion was spotless as always, with gleaming marble floors and expensive artwork on every wall. The smell of furniture polish hung in the air. He found Ayana in the kitchen, wiping down the countertops. "You're still here," he said, loosening his tie. Ayana looked up. At 24, she had a quiet strength about her. Her curly hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her uniform was simple but well kept. "I'm sorry, Mr. Vasconcellos, I'm finishing up now." The plumber took longer than expected with the upstairs bathroom. Dante watched her efficient movements. Unlike the people who surrounded him at work, people who wanted his money, his influence, his approval, Ayana was refreshingly straightforward. She did her job well and didn't try to impress him. "It's fine," he said. "Is there anything to eat? I prepared some pasta before I was going to leave. It's in the refrigerator. I can heat it up for you." Dante nodded and sat at the kitchen island, while Ayana moved around the kitchen. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. In the year she had worked for him, they had fallen into a routine of brief, polite interactions. "Will you be home for your birthday next week, sir?" Ayana asked as she set the plate in front of him. "I noticed it on the calendar in your study when I was cleaning." Dante looked up, surprised. "I don't celebrate my birthday." "Everyone should celebrate their birthday," she said simply, then caught herself. "I'm sorry, that's not my place." He studied her face. "Why do you think that?" Ayana shrugged. "Life is hard enough. Taking one day to acknowledge you're here, that you've made it through another year, that seems important." Her words stayed with him after she left. Dante ate alone at the massive kitchen island, the only sounds the ticking of the expensive clock on the wall and the occasional clink of his fork against the plate. The next morning, as Dante prepared to leave for work, he found Ayana sorting through mail in the entryway. "Good morning, Mr. Vasconcellos," she said. Instead of his usual nod, he stopped. "Do you have plans next Friday evening?" Ayana looked confused. "Friday? My birthday," he clarified, feeling strangely awkward. "Would you be willing to have dinner with me? I'll pay you, of course." Her eyes widened. "Pay me for dinner?" $5,000, he said, the amount seeming reasonable to him. "Just to have dinner and conversation." When she didn't immediately respond, he added, "10,000. "Mr. Vasconcellos, I don't understand." Dante ran a hand through his dark hair, a rare gesture of discomfort. "I don't have anyone to have dinner with on my birthday. I'm offering to pay you to join me. It's simple." Ayana's expression shifted from confusion to something like pity, which made him regret the whole idea. "Never mind, forget I asked," he said sharply, turning toward the door. "Wait," she called. "I'll do it." Dante turned back. "You will?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, but not for $10,000. That's too much for just dinner." "The amount is nothing to me," he said dismissively. "But it matters to me," she replied with quiet dignity. 5,000 is more than fair." Dante studied her, intrigued by her response. Most people grabbed whatever money he offered without hesitation. Fine, 5,000. Friday at 8. We'll go to Laurent's. Ayana's eyes widened slightly at the mention of the exclusive restaurant. I don't have anything to wear to a place like that. Buy something, he said, taking out his wallet and handing her several $100 bills. Consider it an advance. She hesitated before taking the money. Thank you, Mr. Vasconcelos. As he drove to work, Dante questioned his impulse. He had never mixed business with personal matters before. His housekeeper was efficient and respectful, exactly what he wanted in an employee. This arrangement might complicate things, yet the prospect of spending his birthday alone again, pretending it was just another day, had suddenly seemed unbearable. The week passed quickly. Dante found himself wondering what Ayana would wear, what they would talk about beyond their usual brief exchanges. On Friday evening, he returned home early for the first time in years, giving himself time to shower and change. At precisely 8 o'clock, Ayana arrived at the front door. Dante nearly didn't recognize her. Gone was the practical uniform, replaced by a simple but elegant navy blue dress. Her hair fell in soft curls around her shoulders, and she wore minimal makeup that enhanced her natural beauty. "You look different," he said, immediately regretting his lack of eloquence. A small smile touched her lips. "Thank you, I think." The drive to the restaurant was quiet. Dante noticed Ayana looking out the window of his Bentley, taking in the luxurious leather seats and sophisticated details. Laurent's greeted them with deferential service. The maitre d' recognized Dante immediately. "Mr. Vasconcelos, we're honored to have you joining us tonight. Your usual table is ready." As they were led through the restaurant, Dante noticed Ayana's slightly tense posture. He placed his hand briefly on her back to guide her, noting her slight flinch at his touch. Once seated, an awkward silence fell between them. This had seemed like a simpler proposition when he'd suggested it. "Would you like wine?" he asked. "Yes, thank you," she said, studying the menu with a slight furrow in her brow. "Everything is good here," he offered. "Order whatever appeals to you." After they ordered, Dante searched for something to say. Work was his usual topic of conversation, but that hardly seemed appropriate. "How long have you been cleaning houses?" he finally asked. "Since I was 18, she replied. 6 years now." "And is that what you want to do? Clean houses for the rest of your life?" Something flickered in her eyes. Annoyance, perhaps, but her voice remained polite. "No, I'm saving for nursing school." This surprised him. "Nursing? Why not become a doctor if you're interested in medicine?" Ayana took a sip of her water. "Doctors diagnose and prescribe. Nurses provide care. I want to help people directly. To be there when they're scared and vulnerable." The passion in her voice caught his attention. "That's admirable," he said, meaning it. Their appetizers arrived, momentarily saving them from further conversation. Dante watched as Ayana tasted the expensive food, her eyes closing briefly in appreciation. "This is incredible," she said. "Laurent's has 3 Michelin stars," he responded automatically, then felt foolish for the boast. To his surprise, Ayana smiled. "I don't know what that means, but the food speaks for itself." Her honesty was refreshing. The people in Dante's regular circles would never admit ignorance about anything. "Tell me about your family," she said, catching him off guard. Dante tensed. "There's not much to tell. My parents died when I was young. I was raised by my grandmother, who wasn't particularly interested in the job." "I'm sorry," Ayana said simply. "Don't be, it was a long time ago. Still, losing your parents is hard at any age. I lost my mum when I was 12. The genuine understanding in her voice made him uncomfortable. He wasn't used to people seeing past his wealth to the person beneath. "And your father?" he asked, steering the conversation away from himself. "He left when I was a baby. It was just Mom and me until she got sick. Then my aunt took me in." As their main courses arrived, the conversation flowed more naturally. Ayana told him about growing up in a small apartment, about her aunt who worked 2 jobs to support them, about her dreams of becoming a nurse. "What made you decide on nursing?" Dante asked. "My mum had cancer," Ayana explained. The doctors would come in for a few minutes each day, but the nurses were there all the time. They explained things, held her hand, made sure she wasn't in pain. They did the same for me, brought me juice boxes, found me books to read while I sat with her. They made an unbearable situation a little more bearable. Dante found himself genuinely interested. "How much more do you need to save for school?" Ayana hesitated. "About 20,000 for the program I want. I'm a little more than halfway there." The amount was pocket change to Dante, but he could see it represented years of hard work for her. 5,000 from tonight will help, he said. She looked down at her plate. "Yes, it will. Thank you." When the waiter brought the dessert menu, Dante noticed the time. They had been talking for nearly 3 hours. "It's your birthday," Ayana said suddenly. "We should have something special." Before he could respond, she asked the waiter about their chocolate options. When a decadent chocolate cake arrived with a single candle, Dante felt oddly touched. "Make a wish," she said. "I'm a bit old for that," he replied. "No one's too old for wishes," Ayana insisted. To please her, he closed his eyes briefly before blowing out the candle. He couldn't remember the last time he'd done something so childish, or the last time someone had cared enough to suggest it. When they returned to his mansion, Dante felt strangely reluctant for the evening to end. At the door, he took out an envelope containing the promised payment. "Thank you for tonight," he said formally, handing it to her. Ayana took the envelope, a complicated expression crossing her face. "Thank you for dinner. It was lovely." An awkward silence fell between them. "Well, good night, Mr. Vasconcelos." "Dante," he said suddenly. "My name is Dante." She smiled slightly. "Good night, Dante. Happy birthday." As she walked to her car, Dante remained in the doorway, watching. The evening had been unexpectedly pleasant, more than pleasant. For a few hours, he had forgotten. About work, about deals and acquisitions, about the emptiness of his normal routine. Inside his massive, silent house, Dante loosened his tie and poured himself a drink. He couldn't shake the strange feeling that something had shifted tonight. In his study, he opened his laptop intending to check his emails. Instead, he found himself searching for information about nursing programs. The cost of tuition seemed absurdly low compared to the amounts he dealt with daily. He thought about Ayana's face when she talked about helping people, about the easy way she had insisted he make a birthday wish, about the genuine interest she had shown in his answers. It had been so long since anyone had really seen him, not Dante Vasconcelos the millionaire, but just Dante. He closed his laptop, his mind racing with possibilities. One dinner, that's all it had been. But as he looked around his empty mansion, Dante realized he wanted more. More conversations, more genuine smiles, more moments where he felt like a person instead of a portfolio. The question was whether Ayana would want the same, and whether it was something his money could buy. Monday morning arrived with its usual demands. Dante sat in his office staring at the contract before him without really seeing it. His mind kept drifting back to Friday night, to Ayana's smile, her honesty, the way she had insisted he make a birthday wish. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Vasconcelos, your 10 o'clock is here," his assistant announced. Dante nodded, pushing thoughts of Ayana aside. He was being ridiculous. She was his employee, and he had paid her for her time. That was the extent of their relationship. But when he returned home that evening, he found himself looking for her, disappointed to discover she had already finished for the day. The house was spotless as always, with fresh flowers on the entryway table and the lingering scent of lemon polish. In the filtransencio air. In the kitchen, he found a note next to a covered dish in the refrigerator. "Leftover lasagna from today's lunch. Just heat for 3 minutes. A." The simple gesture shouldn't have meant anything. She was just doing her job. Yet Dante found himself smiling as he heated the food. The next morning, he deliberately lingered over his coffee, waiting until he heard Ayana arrive. When she entered the kitchen to begin her day, her surprise at seeing him was evident. "Good morning, Mr. Vasconcelos." "You're still home?" "I have a late meeting," he lied. "And I thought I asked you to call me Dante." She looked uncomfortable. "That doesn't seem appropriate when I'm working." "Why not?" he challenged. "Because I work for you," she said simply, pulling out cleaning supplies from under the sink. Dante watched her organize her materials with practiced efficiency. The lasagna was good. She glanced up, a small smile touching her lips. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Where did you learn to cook? My aunt taught me the basics. The rest I learned from cooking shows and practice. She paused, seeming unsure whether to continue the conversation or start working. I enjoyed Friday night, Dante said abruptly. Ayana's hands stilled momentarily. I did too, thank you again for the opportunity. Opportunity? The word bothered him for some reason. For the dinner, she clarified. And the payment. It will help a lot with my school fund. Right, the payment. The reminder that their interaction had been a transaction stung more than it should have. I was thinking, he said carefully, perhaps we could do it again. She looked up, surprise evident on her face. Another dinner? Dante nodded, trying to appear casual. I have a business event this Friday, a charity gala. I'm expected to bring a guest, and I thought perhaps you might be interested. Would you be paying me again? She asked hesitantly. Yes, he said, though the idea suddenly felt wrong. The same amount. Ayana was quiet for a moment, considering. What would I need to do? Just accompany me. Talk to people. Be yourself. She raised an eyebrow. Be myself at a gala with wealthy business people? They're just people, Dante said, though he knew it wasn't quite true. The business world could be ruthless and judgmental. Rich people, she corrected gently, with very different lives than mine. You managed fine at Laurent's. A small smile played at her lips. That was just you. This sounds like hundreds of yous. The comparison made him laugh, a rare occurrence. Fair enough, but I think you'd handle it better than you expect. Ayana considered for a moment, then nodded. All right, what should I wear? Something formal. I can have my assistant arrange. No, she interrupted. I'll take care of it. Just tell me what. Time. Her independence both impressed and frustrated him. Most women he knew would have jumped at the chance to have him pay for a designer gown. 7, he said. I'll pick you up. She shook her head. I'll meet you here. I'll need to change. After I finish work anyway. With that settled, she returned to her cleaning tasks, and Dante finally left for the office already 2 hours later than usual. Throughout the week, Dante found himself inventing reasons to be home when Ayana was working. He asked questions about her day, her interests, her opinions. At first she seemed guarded, clearly confused by his sudden attention, but gradually she began to open up. He learned that she volunteered at a community clinic on weekends, that she loved mystery, novels, that she had a cat named Watson. Small details that shouldn't have mattered, but somehow did. Friday arrived and Dante felt an anticipation he hadn't experienced in years. He returned home early to prepare for the gala, instructing his driver to be ready at 7. Ayana arrived precisely on time, carrying a garment bag. May I use the guest room to change? Of course, Dante replied. Take any room you like. While she was changing, Dante paced in his living room, checking his watch repeatedly. When she finally descended the staircase, he couldn't help but stare. She wore a simple but elegant emerald green gown that highlighted her slender figure. Her hair was swept up in an elegant style, and she wore the same minimal makeup as before, enhancing her natural beauty rather than masking it. You look stunning, he said honestly. A faint blush colored her cheeks. Thank you. I hope it's appropriate for the event. More than appropriate, he assured her. You'll be the most beautiful woman there. The compliment seemed to make her uncomfortable. We should go. Don't want to be late. The charity gala was held at the Grand Plaza Hotel with its crystal chandeliers and marble columns. As they entered, Dante felt Ayana tense beside him. He placed his hand lightly on her back. Just relax, he murmured. You'll be fine. And she was. To his surprise and admiration, Ayana handled the evening with grace. She engaged in conversation with his business associates, asked intelligent questions, and charmed everyone she met. If anyone was curious about who she was or her relationship to Dante, they didn't dare ask directly. Your date is delightful, remarked Eleanor Winters, the wife of one of Dante's biggest investors. So refreshing to meet someone genuine at these events. Dante glanced across the room to where Ayana was speaking with a group that included the hospital board chairman. "Yes, she is. How long have you been seeing her?" Eleanor probed gently. "We're still getting to know each other," Dante replied vaguely. Eleanor smiled knowingly. "Well, she's certainly different from your usual type." Before Dante could respond, he noticed Marcus Reed approaching Ayana. Reed was known for his inappropriate behavior toward attractive women, especially those he perceived as being of a lower social status. Dante excused himself and quickly moved to Ayana's side. "There you are," he said smoothly, slipping his arm around her waist. "I've been looking for you." He felt her momentary surprise at the contact, but was grateful when she leaned slightly into him. "Mr. Vasconcelos," Reed said with a thin smile, "I was just getting acquainted with your lovely companion." "Ms. Santos was just telling me about her nursing aspirations," added the hospital chairman, Dr. Bennett. "We were discussing our scholarship program for promising students." Ayana's eyes lit up. "Dr. Bennett has been very informative. Did you know the hospital is expanding their emergency department?" Dante felt a surge of pride at how well she was navigating the conversation. "I did hear something about that. Perhaps we should discuss it further over dinner sometime, Dr. Bennett." The chairman nodded enthusiastically. "I'd welcome the opportunity. The Vasconcelos name on our donor wall would certainly inspire others to contribute." As the evening progressed, Dante found himself watching Ayana whenever they were separated. She moved through the crowd with natural ease, her smile genuine, her interest in others sincere. She was so different from the people who usually surrounded him, people whose every action was calculated, every compliment designed to gain favor. Later, as they danced, he couldn't help but comment on it. "You're a natural at this," he said, as they moved across the floor. "Everyone is charmed by you." Ayana smiled. "People just want to be heard and respected. That's true regardless of how much money they have. Is that what you think, that rich people are just like everyone else?" She considered the question. "No, not exactly. Money changes people, changes their perspectives. But underneath, everyone wants connection, even you." The directness of her statement caught him off guard. "What makes you think I want connection?" "You paid me to have dinner with you," she said simply. "You asked me here tonight. You could have brought anyone, but you chose your housekeeper." Dante tensed. "I chose someone I enjoy talking to." "Why?" she pressed. "What's different about talking to me?" The question hung between them as they continued to dance. Dante wasn't sure he had an answer, or at least not one he was ready to acknowledge. "You're honest," he finally said. "You don't want anything from me." Ayana's expression softened. "Except a paycheck. Is that all you want?" The question came out more vulnerable than he intended. She looked away. "I should want more than that. Everyone should want more than money." But money pays for nursing school," she said practically. "Money pays rent and buys groceries and keeps the lights on." Before he could respond, the music ended, and they were approached by a group of board members eager to discuss a new project. The moment of intimacy was broken. As the evening wound down, Dante noticed Ayana stifling a yawn. "Ready to go?" he asked. She nodded gratefully. "Yes, if you don't mind. It's been a long day." In the car, they sat in comfortable silence. Dante noticed Ayana looking out the window, a pensive expression on her face. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked. She turned to him with a small smile. "I was just thinking about how different our lives are. You attend events like that regularly. For me, it was like visiting another planet. Did you enjoy it?" "Parts of it," she admitted. "Dr. Bennett was fascinating. He offered to give me a tour of the hospital's new facilities." Dante felt an unexpected twinge of jealousy. "Are you going to take him up on it?" "I'd like to. It would be valuable to see a modern hospital in operation before I start my training." When they arrived back at the mansion, Dante found himself reluctant for the evening to end. "Would you like a drink before you go?" Ayana hesitated. "I should get home. Watson gets anxious when I'm gone too long, of course." He reached for the envelope in his jacket pocket, the payment they had agreed upon. As he held it out to her, something in her expression shifted. "Thank you," she said, taking it with slightly less enthusiasm than he had expected. "Is something wrong?" She shook her head. "No, it's just—" "Never mind, thank you for tonight. I had a lovely time." As she turned to leave, Dante caught her arm. "Ayana, wait. Tell me what's bothering you." She looked at his hand on her arm, then up at his face. "It feels different now. Taking money from you." "Why?" she sighed. "Because we've spent time together. Because I know more about you than just that you're my employer. It changes things." "Would you have come tonight without the payment?" he asked. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "Probably not. It would seem too much like—" "Like what?" "Like a date," she finished quietly. The word hung between them, charged with unspoken implications. "Would that be so terrible?" Dante asked, his voice low. Ayana stepped back. "Yes. You're my boss, Dante. You live in a world I can barely comprehend. And this arrangement," she gestured to the envelope, "keeps things clear. You pay, I provide a service. It's simple. Is that all this is to you?" "A service?" She looked away. "It has to be." Dante felt a tightness in his chest at her words. "What if I want more than that?" "Then you should find someone from your world," she said softly. "Someone who fits into your life, not your housekeeper." With that, she turned and walked to her car, leaving Dante standing in the doorway, the weight of her words settling over him like a heavy cloak. Inside his empty mansion, he poured himself a drink and tried to make sense of his feelings. Ayana was right, they came from different worlds. Any relationship beyond employer and employee would be complicated, messy, and likely to end badly. Yet he couldn't shake the memory of her smile, the feeling of her in his arms as they danced, the way she saw through his carefully constructed facade to the loneliness beneath. For the first time in years, Dante wanted something his money couldn't easily buy. He wanted Ayana to see him as more than her wealthy boss. He wanted her to choose to spend time with him, not because he paid her, but because she wanted to. The question was whether such a thing was possible, and what he was willing to risk to find out. The following Monday, Dante deliberately stayed at the office until late. He told himself it was because of the Henderson merger, but deep down he knew he was avoiding seeing Ayana. Their conversation after the gala had left him unsettled, confused about what he wanted and how to proceed. When he finally returned home, the house was dark and quiet. In the kitchen, he found the usual covered dish in the refrigerator with a note. This time it simply said, "Chicken piccata, 2 minutes to heat. A." No personal message, just instructions. She was drawing the line again, returning to their professional relationship. For the next 2 weeks, Dante made sure to leave before Ayana arrived and return after she'd gone. He threw himself into work, staying at the office until midnight, most nights. His assistant remarked that she'd never seen him so focused. If only she knew it was all to avoid confronting feelings he didn't understand, but avoidance had its costs. His mansion, always immaculately maintained by Ayana, felt emptier than ever. The meals she left became the only personal connection between them, and he found himself looking forward to her simple notes, searching for any hint of the warmth they'd shared. On Friday evening, Dante was in his study when his phone rang. It was Dr. Bennett from the hospital. "Dante, glad I caught you," the older man said. "I wanted to follow up on your interest in our emergency department expansion." "Of course," Dante replied professionally. "I've been meaning to contact you." "Excellent. We're having a small gathering tomorrow, a tour of the facilities followed by lunch. I'd love for you to join us. Your lovely friend from the gala seemed quite interested as well. Ayana, was it? Perhaps you could bring her along." Dante hesitated. "I'm not sure she's available." "That's a shame," Dr. Bennett replied. "She mentioned her interest in nursing. I thought this might be valuable for her." After hanging up, Dante sat with the phone in his hand, contemplating. He hadn't spoken to Ayana in weeks, apart from necessary text messages about household matters. The idea of seeing her again made his heart race in a way that both annoyed and intrigued him. Before he could overthink it, he texted her, "Dr. Bennett invited us to tour the hospital tomorrow morning. Interested?" Her response came quickly. "Us?" "He specifically asked for you to come," Dante typed back. There was a long pause before her reply. "What time?" 10 a.m. I can pick you up." Another pause. "I'll meet you there." Still maintaining her distance, Dante thought. I'll text you the address. That night, Dante barely slept, rehearsing what he might say to her. By morning, he was no closer to knowing how to bridge the gap between them. The hospital was an impressive modern building with a newly constructed wing where the emergency department expansion was taking place. Dante arrived early, waiting anxiously in the lobby. When Ayanna walked through the doors, his breath caught. She was simply dressed in a blue sundress with a white cardigan, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked younger, more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. You came, he said, unable to hide his relief. I came to see the hospital, she clarified, maintaining a professional distance. Dr. Bennett's offer was generous. Dante nodded, accepting the boundary she was setting. He should be meeting us soon. As if on cue, Dr. Bennett appeared, greeting them warmly. Dante, Ms. Santos, thank you for coming. We're just gathering the rest of the group for the tour. The next hour was spent walking through the new facilities. Dr. Bennett explained the advanced technology being installed, the improved patient flow design, and the specialized treatment areas. Throughout the tour, Dante watched Ayanna. Her eyes were bright with interest, asking informed questions that clearly impressed the medical staff. How you've done your research, he commented quietly as they walked slightly behind the group. She nodded. I've been reading everything I can about modern emergency care. It's fascinating how design impacts treatment outcomes. Her passion was evident, and Dante felt a renewed determination to help her achieve her dream. During lunch with the hospital board and potential donors, Dante found himself speaking up about the importance of training programs for nursing students. He caught Ayanna's surprised glance, but continued making his case. The best technology is only as effective as the people operating it, he said. Investing in the next generation of healthcare workers seems just as important as investing in equipment. Several board members nodded in agreement, and a discussion about expanding their scholarship program ensued. Through it all, Dante felt Ayanna's eyes on him, curious and perhaps a little suspicious of his motives. After lunch, as the group dispersed, Dr. Bennett pulled Dante aside. I think we can count on your support for the expansion, he asked. Yes, Dante agreed. But I'd like to discuss another matter as well. Your nursing scholarship program, I'd like to contribute specifically to that. Dr. Bennett looked pleased. Wonderful. We can set up a named scholarship if you'd like. The Vasconcelos Nursing Fund has a nice ring to it. Dante glanced over at Ayanna, who was speaking with one of the nurses. Let's discuss the details next week. I'll have my assistant call you. When it was time to leave, Dante approached Ayanna. Can I give you a ride home? She hesitated. That's not necessary. I can take the bus. Please, he said. I'd like to talk to you. After a moment's consideration, she nodded. All right. In the car, an uncomfortable silence settled between them. Dante had so much he wanted to say but couldn't find the right words. You were impressive in there, he finally offered. Thank you, she replied, looking out the window. It was a valuable experience. Is that the kind of hospital you'd like to work in? She smiled slightly. It's state-of-the-art. Any nurse would be lucky to work there. But it's not about fancy equipment, she said. I'd work anywhere. So I could help people. Her selflessness continually surprised him. In his world, people were always calculating their advantage, looking for ways to maximize profit or prestige. I've missed talking to you, he admitted suddenly. Ayanna turned to look at him, her expression guarded. Dante. I know. I'm your boss. We come from different worlds, but these past few weeks avoiding you, it's been difficult. You've been avoiding me, she asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. Deliberately leaving before you arrive? Coming home after you've gone? Yes, I'd call that avoiding. She shook her head. I thought you were just busy. I was busy avoiding you, he said with a self-deprecating smile. Very efficiently, too. That earned a small laugh from her, breaking some of the tension. I don't know how to do this, Ayanna, he confessed. I don't know how to be around you without wanting more than I should ask for. She looked down at her hands. What exactly do you want from me? It was the most direct question she could have asked, and Dante wasn't sure he had the answer. I want to spend time with you, he said slowly. Without it being a transaction. Without You feeling obligated because I'm your employer. That's complicated, she said softly. I know. I need this job, Dante. I can't risk losing it because of whatever this is. He pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned to face her. You won't lose your job. No matter what happens between us, I would never do that to you. She studied his face, searching for sincerity. People make promises all the time when they want something. Those promises don't always hold when things get difficult. Her words stung because they contained truth. Dante had broken promises before, in business and in personal relationships. When things became inconvenient, he had the luxury of walking away, of buying his way out of problems. You're right to be cautious, he acknowledged. But I'm asking for a chance, one real date, no payment, no obligation, just two people getting to know each other. Ayana was quiet for a long moment. And if it doesn't work out? If one of us decides there's nothing there? Then we go back to being employer and employee, he said, though the idea pained him. No hard feelings, no consequences. She didn't look convinced. It's never that simple, Dante. It can be if we both agree to it. After what felt like an eternity, she nodded. One date. Relief flooded through him. Thank you. But, she added, firmly, I don't want anything fancy, no expensive restaurants, no galas, something normal. Dante tried to hide his smile. Define normal. Something regular people do on dates. Nothing that requires me to buy a new dress or you to wear a tuxedo. He nodded, already thinking of possibilities. I can do normal. When they reached her apartment building, Dante was surprised. It was in a decent neighborhood, but far from luxurious. The brick building was well maintained, but clearly aging, with window air conditioning units and small balconies cluttered with plants. This is where you live? He asked before he could stop himself. Ayana raised an eyebrow. Not everyone lives in a mansion, Dante. He felt foolish. I didn't mean, it's fine, she said. It's small, but it's home. Watson and I are happy here. As if on cue, a grey tabby cat appeared in the window of a second-floor apartment, watching them. That's Watson? Dante asked, grateful for the change of subject. Ayana smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her today. Yes, that's him. He always waits for me by the window. He's loyal, Dante observed. He knows who feeds him, she replied with a shrug, but her affection for the animal was clear. Saturday, Dante suggested. For our date? Ayana nodded. Saturday is fine. Afternoon would be better than evening. I volunteer at the clinic in the morning, but I'm done by 2. I'll pick you up at 3, he said. Casual clothes. I promise. No tuxedos. She laughed softly. All right. See you then. As she walked toward her building, Dante watched her go, already counting the hours until Saturday. The next few days passed in a blur of anticipation and planning. Dante wanted to respect Ayana's wish for something normal, but he had little experience with normal dates. His relationships had always involved exclusive restaurants, luxury vacations, and expensive gifts, the trappings of his wealth used to impress and entice. Finally, he called Jake, his oldest friend, and the only person from his pre-wealth days, who still treated him like a regular person. Let me get this straight, Jake said after Dante explained the situation. You're dating your housekeeper, and you need advice on how to seem like a normal human being. I'm not dating her yet, Dante clarified. And yes, I need suggestions for a regular date, something casual but memorable. Jake's laughter came through the phone. Only you would overthink this, man. Keep it simple. The art festival is happening. At Carson Park this weekend. Food trucks, local artists, live music. Very normal, very casual. An outdoor festival? Dante couldn't remember the last time he'd attended something so public and unstructured. Trust me, it's perfect. Lots to see and do, plenty to talk about, good food. Plus, if conversation lags, you can just look at the art. Saturday arrived with perfect weather. Sunny but not too hot, with a gentle breeze. Dante chose the most casual. Clothes he owned, dark jeans and a simple button-down shirt. Even so, he suspected his casual wear still cost more than most people's formal attire. When he pulled up to Ayana's building, he felt an unfamiliar nervousness. He was used to being confident, in control. But with Ayana, all his usual assurances, his wealth, His business success, his social standing meant nothing. She came out wearing a yellow sundress with a denim jacket, her hair braided over one shoulder. She looked beautiful in a natural, effortless way that the women in his social circle spent thousands trying to achieve. "You look great," he said as she got into the car. "Thanks," she replied, seeming a bit nervous herself. "So do you. Very normal," he laughed. "I'm trying. I even left my monocle and top hat at home." Her smile relaxed a bit. "Where are we going?" "Carson Park. There's an art festival happening. I thought we could check it out, maybe get some food from the trucks. Is that normal enough?" Her eyes lit up. "Actually, that sounds perfect. I read about it but wasn't sure I'd have time to go." The park was crowded when they arrived, filled with families, couples, and groups of friends enjoying the festival. Local artists had set up booths displaying paintings, pottery, jewelry, and other crafts. Food trucks lined one side of the park, offering everything from gourmet tacos to artisanal ice cream. As they walked among the booths, Dante was struck by how relaxed Ayana seemed. Here, in this public, casual setting, the barriers between them seemed less pronounced. She pointed out artwork she liked, explaining what drew her to certain pieces. Her taste was eclectic but thoughtful, appreciating both traditional and abstract works. At one booth, she lingered over a set of handmade ceramic mugs, each uniquely designed with nature motifs. "These are beautiful," she said, carefully turning one over in her hands to examine the craftsmanship. Dante watched her, fascinated by her genuine appreciation for the simple object. "Do you want one?" She put it down reluctantly. "Maybe another time." Without commenting, Dante made a mental note of the booth. They continued through the festival, stopping to listen to a local band playing on a small stage. The music was lively, and people had gathered to dance on the grass in front of the stage. "Are you hungry?" Dante asked after a while. Ayana nodded. "Starving. Those tacos smell amazing." They joined the line at a popular food truck, and Dante found himself enjoying the simple experience of waiting among other festival goers. No one recognized him here. No one was deferential or overly attentive. He was just another person enjoying a Saturday afternoon. "This is nice," he said as they found a spot on the grass to eat their tacos. "Being anonymous for a change," Ayana looked curious. "Is it hard being recognized everywhere?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "People treat you differently when they know you have money. They either want something from you or they resent you. Rarely do they just see you as a person. Is that why you hired me for your birthday? To have someone who didn't know who you were?" Dante considered the question. "No, you knew who I was. I think I hired you because you always treated me the same way regardless of who I was. You were respectful but not deferential. You did your job well without trying to impress me." She smiled slightly. "That's just called being professional. It's rarer than you might think," he said, "and it made me curious about you, about who you are beyond your job." "And what have you learned?" she asked, a teasing note in her voice. "That you're passionate about helping others, that you're practical but not cynical, that you love your cat and mystery novels and ceramic mugs with flowers on them," she laughed. "So you've been paying attention." "To everything," he confirmed, his voice softer. A brief silence fell between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. "What about you?" she asked. "What should I know about Dante beyond the millionaire businessman?" He thought for a moment. "I love old jazz music. I play piano, though not as often as I should. I read biographies of historical figures before bed. And I've been lonely for most of my life, even when surrounded by people." The last confession surprised even him. It wasn't something he'd ever admitted aloud before. Ayana's expression softened. "Thank you for telling me that. It's easier to be honest with you," he said. "You don't seem to judge. Everyone's fighting their own battles," she replied, "even millionaires." After they finished eating, they continued exploring the festival. Dante felt more relaxed than he had in years, simply enjoying the moment without thinking about business or obligations. As the afternoon turned to evening, the festival lights came on, creating a magical atmosphere. A different band took the stage, playing slower, more romantic music. Couples moved onto the makeshift dance floor. "Would you like to dance?" Dante asked, holding out his hand. Ayana hesitated only briefly before taking it. "Without all the fancy people watching?" "Yes, I think I would," He led her to the edge of the dancing area, pulling her gently into his arms. Unlike their formal dance at the gala, this was relaxed, intimate. She rested her head against his shoulder as they swayed to the music, and Dante felt a contentment he couldn't remember experiencing before. "This has been a perfect day," he murmured against her hair. She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the festival lights. "It has, hasn't it?" The moment felt right. Dante leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, but she didn't. Their lips met in a gentle kiss that deepened as she responded, her hand moving to the back of his neck. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing a little faster. Ayana's cheeks were flushed, and Dante was certain he'd never seen anything more beautiful. "Was that okay?" he asked, suddenly unsure of himself. She nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. "More than okay." They stayed at the festival until it began to wind down, neither wanting the day to end. When they finally returned to her apartment, Dante walked her to the door. "I had a wonderful time," she said, keys in hand. "So did I," he replied. "Better than any gala or business dinner I've ever attended." She laughed softly. "The bar was pretty low then." "No," he said seriously. "The bar is now impossibly high. Nothing will compare to today." Her expression turned thoughtful. "Dante, this was lovely, but we still have to figure out what this means. I work for you. That complicates things." "I know," he acknowledged, "but I want to try to make this work, whatever it takes. Even if it means changes for both of us." He nodded. "Even then," she stood on her tiptoes and kissed him briefly. "We'll talk more soon. Good night, Dante." "Good night, Ayana." As he drove home, Dante's mind was racing with possibilities and plans. For the first time in his adult life, his thoughts weren't centered on business deals or financial gains. Instead, he was thinking about a future that included someone else, someone who saw him for who he was, not what he owned. His empty mansion seemed particularly hollow when he returned. He wandered through the immaculate rooms, seeing them through new eyes. Everything was perfect, expensive, and utterly impersonal. Nothing reflected who he really was. In his study, he sat at his desk and opened his laptop. Instead of checking emails or stock prices, he found himself searching for information about the hospital's nursing scholarship program. An idea was forming, a way to help Ayana achieve her dreams without making her feel like a charity case. The more he thought about it, the more certain he became. He wanted Ayana in his life, not as his employee, but as his equal. The question was whether she would accept what he planned to offer, and whether it would be enough to bridge the gap between their worlds. Monday morning arrived, and for the first time in weeks, Dante made no effort to avoid Ayana. He deliberately lingered over his coffee, waiting to hear her key in the door. When she entered the kitchen, there was a moment of shy hesitation before she smiled. "Good morning," she said, setting down her bag. "Good morning," he replied, taking in the sight of her in her simple uniform. Even dressed for work, she was beautiful. "Coffee?" She nodded, and he poured her a cup, adding a splash of cream the way he'd noticed she liked it. "Thank you," she said, accepting the mug. "About Saturday." "I had an amazing time," he said quickly. "So, did I?" She admitted, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "But it does make things more complicated." Dante set his cup down. "I've been thinking about that. What if you didn't work for me anymore?" Her face fell. "You're firing me?" "No." "God, no," he said, horrified at the misunderstanding. "That's not what I meant at all." "Then what did you mean?" Dante took a deep breath. "What if I helped you with nursing school? Not as a gift or charity, but as an investment in your future?" Ayana's expression turned guarded. "Dante, I can't accept that kind of money from you." "Hear me out," he said. "The hospital board is expanding their scholarship program. I've already decided to donate to it. What if part of that donation went toward a merit-based scholarship for which you could apply? You'd still have to qualify on your own merits, but it would give you the opportunity to start school sooner." She studied his face. "You're serious about this?" "Completely serious. I was going to donate anyway after seeing the facilities. This just gives the donation additional meaning." "And what about us?" she asked cautiously. "Where does that leave us? Dante moved closer to her. That depends on what you want. But if you're not my employee, we could explore this without the complication of our professional relationship. Ayana set her coffee down, thinking, I'd still need income while in school. I can't just quit working altogether. There are other jobs, Dante said. Part-time positions at the hospital, perhaps. Dr. Bennett seemed impressed with you. She nodded slowly. I'd need to think about this. It's a big change. Of course, he agreed. Take all the time you need. For the next 2 weeks, they continued in a state of limbo. Ayana still came to clean the mansion, but there was a new awareness. Between them, small touches and lingering glances that spoke of their growing connection. In the evenings, they occasionally met for dinner or walks in the park, carefully navigating the transition from employer and employee to something more. During this time, Dante met with Dr. Bennett and the hospital board to discuss his donation to the nursing scholarship program. He was careful to structure it so that Ayana would have to qualify on her own merits, but the timing and requirements would make her an ideal candidate. We're thrilled with your generosity, Dr. Bennett said. As they finalized the details, this will help many promising students pursue their nursing degrees. That's the goal, Dante replied. Healthcare needs dedicated professionals like Ayana. Dr. Bennett smiled knowingly. She made quite an impression on our staff during the tour. Several of our charge nurses mentioned they'd love to have someone with her compassion and intelligence on their teams. She's exceptional, Dante agreed, not bothering to hide his admiration. You know, Dr. Bennett said casually, we often have administrative positions open that would be perfect for nursing students. Flexible hours, relevant experience, decent pay. If she's interested, have her send me her resume. Dante thanked him, grateful for the opportunity this presented. When he shared the news with Ayana that evening, she was cautiously optimistic. It sounds almost too perfect, she said, as they sat on a bench in the park near her apartment. But you'll apply? He asked. She nodded. Yes, I'll apply, for both the scholarship and the job. But Dante, I need to do this on my own merits. I don't want special treatment because of us. He took her hand. I've been very clear about that with the board. The scholarship will be awarded based on qualifications and need. Your application will be reviewed by a committee that doesn't even know me. She squeezed his hand. Thank you for understanding why that's important to me. A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched children playing nearby. Dante marveled at how natural it felt to simply sit with her, enjoying her company without the pressure of business matters or social expectations. I have something for you, he said suddenly, reaching into his jacket pocket. I saw it at the festival and went back for it. He handed her a small package wrapped in simple brown paper. Ayana opened it carefully to reveal one of the ceramic mugs she had admired at the art festival, the one with painted wildflowers winding around its surface. Dante, she breathed, turning it over in her hands. It's beautiful. Thank you. I wanted you to have something to remember our first real date, he said. She looked up at him, her eyes bright with emotion. As if I could forget. The next month brought significant changes. Ayana applied for and received the nursing scholarship, which would cover her tuition and books for the accelerated nursing program. She also secured a part-time administrative position at the hospital, working in the emergency department she had toured with Dante. Her final day working at Dante's mansion was bittersweet for both of them. As she completed her last rounds of cleaning, Dante found himself following her from room to room, making conversation about anything and everything. You're hovering, she teased as she dusted the living room shelves. I'm supervising, he corrected with a smile. Making sure you don't slack off on your last day. She laughed, the sound echoing through the large room. You'll need to find someone new, you know. I can recommend a service. The thought of another person taking over her duties made him oddly sad. It won't be the same. Ayana set down her duster and turned to face him. No, it won't, but it's for the best, for both of us. He nodded, knowing she was right. Their relationship had already evolved beyond employer and employee. This change would allow it to grow in ways that wouldn't be possible otherwise. I have something for you, she said, reaching into her pocket. A goodbye gift. She handed him a small wrapped package. Inside was a key on a simple keychain with a capital A charm. A key to your apartment? He asked, surprised and touched. She nodded, suddenly looking nervous. I thought, well, now that I won't be working here, maybe you'd like to spend time at my place sometimes. It's small, nothing like this, but... Dante cut her off with a kiss, pulling her close. I love it. Thank you. As the weeks passed, they settled into a new pattern. Dante made an effort to spend time in Ayana's world, rather than always bringing her into his. He discovered her favorite local restaurants, met her friends from the community clinic, and even helped her study for her nursing exams. To his surprise, he enjoyed the simplicity of her apartment, the way Watson the cat eventually warmed up to him, and the cozy evenings they spent together cooking or watching movies. Ayana, in turn, continued to accompany him to certain business events, now clearly as his partner rather than his employee. She handled the transition with grace, neither intimidated by the wealthy circles he moved in, nor trying to pretend she belonged there. Her authenticity and intelligence won over even his most judgmental business associates. She's remarkable, commented Eleanor Winters at a charity function. Completely unpretentious, yet perfectly at ease. How did you find her? She found me, Dante replied simply, and I'm grateful every day that she did. 3 months into Ayana's nursing program, Dante realized something had fundamentally changed within him. The mansion that had once been his pride now felt empty when she wasn't there. He found himself spending more and more time at her small apartment, working remotely, so they could be together in the evenings when she returned from classes or her hospital shifts. One night, as they sat together on her tiny balcony, Watson purring in Ayana's lap, Dante brought up what had been on his mind. I've been thinking about selling the mansion, he said casually. Ayana looked up in surprise. Really? Why? It's too big, too empty. It never really felt like a home, just a showcase for my success. He took her hand. I thought perhaps we could look for something together, something that would be ours, not mine or yours. She was quiet for a long moment. Are you asking me to move in with you? I'm asking if you'd consider building a life with me, he said. The living arrangements are just details. Ayana's eyes filled with tears. Dante, we haven't even been dating that long. Are you sure about this? He nodded. I've never been more sure of anything. I know it seems fast, but when you know, you know. He paused, suddenly uncertain. Unless you don't feel the same way. She shook her head quickly. It's not that. I just never imagined this happening to me. Meeting someone like you, having these opportunities. Sometimes I worry I'll wake up and discover it was all a dream. Dante pulled her closer. It's not a dream. And I'm the lucky one, Ayana. You've shown me what really matters in life. Before you, I had everything money could buy, but nothing that truly meant anything. She leaned against him, considering. If we did this, found a place together, I'd want something simple. Not too extravagant. Whatever you want, he promised, as long as there's room for Watson. That made her laugh. He would insist on that. In the weeks that followed, they looked at houses together, searching for something that would feel like home to both of them. They finally found it in a comfortable house near the hospital, large enough to entertain but not ostentatious, with a garden Ayana loved and an office space for Dante. Moving day arrived on a sunny Saturday in spring. Ayana's few possessions looked almost comically small next to Dante's furniture, but together they decided what to keep and what to donate, creating a space that reflected both of their tastes and histories. As they unpacked in their new bedroom, Dante came across the ceramic mug he had given her after their first date. It was carefully wrapped in tissue paper, preserved like a treasure. You kept this so well, he commented, unwrapping it. Ayana smiled. It was the first gift you gave me that wasn't about money or obligation, just something you knew would make me happy. She took it from him gently. It belongs on our nightstand, I think. Our nightstand, he repeated, loving the sound of that. Later, that evening, with boxes still scattered around them, they sat on the porch swing of their new home. The neighborhood was quiet, with lights coming on in neighboring houses as dusk fell. Happy? Dante asked, his arm around her shoulders. Very, she replied, leaning into him. though I still can't believe how much has changed in less than a year. He chuckled. From cleaning my floors to sharing my life. It's been quite a journey. I'm still cleaning your floors, she teased. Just fewer of them. Dante turned to face her, his expression suddenly serious. I have one more thing for you. A housewarming gift. From his pocket he pulled a small velvet box. Ayana's eyes widened as he opened it to reveal a ring. Elegant but not flashy, with a simple diamond flanked by smaller sapphires. Dante, she whispered. I wasn't planning to do this today, he said nervously. I had a whole evening planned next week, dinner, music, the whole romantic scenario. But sitting here in our home, it just feels right. He slid off the swing to kneel before her. Ayana Santos, you've changed my life in ways I never imagined possible. You saw me when I was invisible to everyone else, hidden behind my wealth and position. You taught me that true connection can't be bought. It has to be earned through honesty and vulnerability. Tears filled her eyes as he continued. I know it hasn't been long in the traditional sense, but I've never been more certain. Of anything, I want to build a life with you, to support your dreams as you've supported mine by showing me what really matters. He held the ring up. Will you marry me? Ayana's hands trembled as she reached for his face, cradling it gently. You know what people will say, that I'm after your money, that you're having some kind of midlife crisis. I don't care what anyone says, he replied firmly. I know the truth. We know the truth. She smiled through her tears. Yes, Dante Vasconcelos, I will marry you. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Dante felt a sense of peace and rightness he had never experienced before. From the loneliness of his birthday dinner to this moment of pure joy, it had been an unexpected journey, but one he would forever be grateful for. Ayana looked at the ring on her finger, then back at him. I never thought the man who paid me to have dinner with him would end up being the love of my life. And I never thought the woman I hired to clean my house would end up cleaning out my heart, he replied, pulling her close for a kiss. Inside their new home, Watson watched them through the window, tail twitching in feline approval. The night was falling around them, but neither noticed, too caught up in the promise of their future together. 6 months later, Ayana stood in a small room at the back of a garden venue, adjusting her simple but elegant wedding dress. Her aunt helped arrange the veil while Elena, a friend from nursing school, handed her the bouquet of wildflowers that matched the ones on the special mug now displayed prominently in their home. Ready? Her aunt asked, tears in her eyes. Ayana nodded, her heart full. More than ready. Outside, a small gathering of friends and family waited. Dante stood at the front with Jake beside him as best man, looking happier than anyone had ever seen him. When Ayana appeared, walking down the aisle on her aunt's arm, Dante felt his breath catch. She was radiant, her smile lighting up her entire face as their eyes met. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They had written their own vows, promises not of blind devotion, but of partnership, support, and continued growth together. You came into my life when I needed you most, Dante said, holding her hands in his. Not as my employee, but as the person who would teach me that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in moments of genuine connection. Ayana's voice was clear and steady as she responded. You showed me that dreams don't have to remain distant, hopes that with courage and support they can become reality. I promise to be your partner in all things, to remind you of what matters most when the world tries to distract you, and to love you for exactly who you are. As they exchanged rings and were pronounced husband and wife, the small crowd erupted in cheers. Dr. Bennett and his wife wiped away tears, while Ayana's nursing school friends threw flower petals as the couple walked back down the aisle together. The reception was held in the same garden, with twinkling lights strung through the trees and simple, elegant decorations. Unlike the formal galas and business functions Dante had attended throughout his life, this celebration was warm and personal, filled with genuine joy rather than social positioning. As the evening progressed, Ayana found herself seated beside Eleanor Winters, who had become an unexpected ally and friend. You've completely transformed him, Eleanor commented, watching Dante laughing with Jake across the room. I've known him for 15 years, and I've never seen him so genuinely happy, Ayana smiled. We've transformed each other. He's given me the confidence to pursue my dreams, and I've tried to give him permission to be himself beyond his business identity. A fair exchange, Eleanor said approvingly. The best marriages always are. Later, as they shared their first dance as husband and wife, Dante held Ayana close, still amazed that this remarkable woman had chosen to share her life with him. Any regrets? He murmured against her hair. She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the lights above them. Only that we wasted time with me cleaning your mansion when we could have been doing this, he laughed. I don't know. I think we needed that time. You getting to know the real me behind the wealth, me learning that some things can't be bought. Like love, she said softly. Exactly like love. He kissed her gently. Though technically, I did pay for our first date, Ayana laughed, the sound as clear and beautiful as it had been the first time he'd heard it in his kitchen. Best money you ever spent? Without question, he agreed, spinning her in a slow circle. The best investment of my life? As the night wound down, they said goodbye to their guests and retreated to the small cottage on the property where they would spend their wedding night before leaving for their honeymoon the next day. Sitting together on the cottage porch, they looked up at the stars. Ayana's head resting on Dante's shoulder, his arm secure around her. I finally understand what my mother meant, she said quietly. About what? She always told me that wealth wasn't about money, but about having enough of what truly matters. Ayana looked up at him. I feel wealthy now, in all the ways that count. Dante kissed her forehead, understanding completely. For years he had accumulated money and possessions, thinking they would fill the emptiness inside him. It had taken meeting Ayana, paying her to spend time with him because he was so desperate for genuine connection, to realize what he had been missing all along. I love you, he said simply. I love you too, she replied. No payment required, and as they laughed together under the stars, both knew that what they had found was beyond price. A connection that no amount of money could buy, but that had begun, ironically, with a transaction neither would ever regret. In the years that followed, Dante continued to run his businesses, but with new priorities and perspective. Ayana completed her nursing degree with honors and began working in the emergency department at the hospital, her natural compassion and quick thinking making her an invaluable member of the team. They faced challenges, of course, misunderstandings, differing perspectives, the occasional clash of their different backgrounds. But through it all, they maintained the honesty and mutual respect that had formed the foundation of their relationship from the beginning. And on each of Dante's birthdays, they shared a special dinner together, not at an exclusive restaurant but at home. Ayana would present him with a single candle to blow out, insisting he make a wish, though they both knew his greatest wish had already come true, finding someone who saw him for who he truly was and loved him anyway. In the end, what had begun as a desperate attempt to buy companionship had transformed into something money could never purchase, a genuine love that enriched them both in ways neither could have imagined. The end.